nature.
Oh,
And I
Jesus.
think he kind of showed that view in the end. But has anybody with that kind of view that we're always learning and that we all... Oh my God, okay. So, I've been asked, why do you have to bring up physics? Well, they said quantum physics in every subject. And the answer is yes and no. I mean, first of all, you have to understand. I mean, I'm always discussing these things from a philosophical point of view, but I've spent a lot of time discussing political philosophy, for example. And no, I don't try to derive the answers from the physics itself. The point is this, a couple things. One, skepticism was adopted by the natural philosophers in physics and was really successful. We win. I want to declare we win thousands of years of debate, and guess who won? The skeptics. Okay, so that's part of what I want to do, and right now, I'm working on a philosophical system that starts from, if we assume nothing is true, what's the first truth? And it's that, these perceptions are happening to us. There are perceptions, and there seems to be a perceiver. That seems to be the foundation. I am going to apply these principles that were taken from philosophy, used in physics. Why? Well, because I'm using them as metaphors. If you study some cognitive science, get up to date on cognitive science, you'll see we're all thinking in metaphor. And it all comes down to spatial metaphors, sense and motor metaphors. And so, yeah, I look to physics for still more metaphors, because the metaphors that work in physics are from nature. They're working in nature. That's what physics is studying. It's natural philosophy. These things work in nature, so of course I'm going to apply the principles everywhere. Now, the principles from quantum mechanics, the metaphors we get, is just an understanding of probability, because people are really confused about probability. I mean, they don't understand the concept of zero probability. They think the idea that there's no 100% probability could lead to the idea that there's no 0% probability. Well, quantum physics can straighten these ideas out for you. But I'm not going to use quantum physics. I didn't use quantum physics when I was talking about the moral dilemmas. When people tell me, stop talking about something, I mean, my attitude on the net is usually like, well, this is about expression. This is what I want to work out. So I'm just, the people that are interested, and the people that aren't. But I guess I could take it as a compliment. Maybe people are saying, oh, I like to listen to you, but I'm getting tired of hearing about quantum mechanics. I don't know. Listen, if you want to ask me a question, if you make a video and bring that video to my attention in case I don't notice it, but I'll try to notice it on my own, reply to me or something, even off topic, ask me a question, and I'll answer it. Quantum physics probably won't necessarily have to be a part of it. Relativity will, because relativity is all about analyzing problems a certain way. So, for example, I want to make this video on civilization and talking about civilization and what the term means and what it can mean for us, and what we ought to do to try to understand civilization a certain way, or to come up with a new term and understand the new term a certain way. That'll have relativity in it. The thing is, though, the way I think we learn new knowledge is basically by understanding paradoxes. You take a paradox and you analyze it. And if you can analyze it to the point where it doesn't seem like a paradox anymore, then you should adopt these new principles that make it not a paradox, assuming it doesn't create paradoxes elsewhere. So you have to do some post-diction. So if you come up with a system that makes a paradox go away, then it also has to work with all the other things that weren't paradoxes. If it creates paradoxes in those areas, then maybe you don't have better principles. But for example, Zeno's ancient paradox. Zeno was an ancient skeptic, and he had a paradox basically that to go from one place to another, you have to cross an infinite number of points, so it's going to take an infinite number of time. He argues, for example, you can't cross the river because to cross the river you have to go halfway, and before you cross halfway, you go halfway again. Yeah, there's a common sense thing of just laughing at that, because we know we have to get across the river. So if we prove we can't get across the river, we know there's a problem with the proof. Zeno was really saying, look, there's a problem with philosophy. According to logic, we can't get across the river, but we know we get across the river. Yeah, so there's a problem in the logic, and you can just laugh and say, therefore, we won't think about it. Or you can say, well, let me figure out what we're doing wrong, why this paradox seems like a paradox. Let me get tools so that show that it's not a paradox. And that's what mathematics eventually did, is they figured out how to do infinite sums. If you split something in half 5 times and add up all the parts, you're going to get the whole, the one thing you started with. You get it in 5 times perfectly, you add them back together perfectly, you get the whole. If you do that infinite number of times, you also get the whole. Mathematics developed concepts of the limit, and some infinite sums have finite answers. Some infinite sums have infinite answers. If I add 1 to itself infinite number of times, yeah, I get an infinite answer. But if I add 1/2 to a half of the previous term, and keep doing that, so I add a half to a quarter, to an eighth, to a 16th, to a 32nd, to a 64th, to a 128th, to a 256th. If I keep doing that forever, I also get a finite sum of 1. And that's the solution to that paradox. And when you understand that, suddenly it's not even a paradox, and you just understand how that stuff works. So the paradoxes of epistemology about having certain knowledge and stuff, these are important. Get these right, understand why these aren't paradoxes, and then take the principles that helped you see past that paradox in fundamental epistemology and apply those principles all throughout your system. See what the effect is. Because I'll tell you what the effect is. You'll get a more and more coherent, coordinated system that's more real, because the whole process is about taking metaphors that have proven themselves real in some domain of nature and applying them throughout and figuring out how they can all work out together, and we get better and better principles this way. Okay, so if you want to hear my opinion on something else, then you can feel free to ask me. If you want to say do or don't apply principles from quantum physics, I can do that too. Mukhtar recently asked me to apply the principles of quantum physics, and I did, even though I didn't really think it was a domain that needed it. So he asked, I'll do that. If you want me to have a certain subject, try to lead that subject by asking it. Okay. Other than that, I will spend a lot of time on fundamentals of logic and epistemology, because that's what I'm working on right now. Okay, that's what I'm writing. That's what I'm settling right now. So anyway, okay. After I recorded this, I've seen just a little bit of a video of Gary's, and basically he puts it this way, that you have to get the first steps of the staircase right, or else you don't even go on the rest of the staircase. That's what I'm saying. That's why we talk about these fundamentals. You got to get the first steps of the staircase. The first steps of the staircase are subjective and relativistic. You go a little bit way up that staircase, and then there's an objective theory, a model, a nice, sound, robust objective model, and you can keep going, okay? But the first steps are, we have to face the reality of how the physical world works, and it's relativistic, and for us, subjectivistic.